To find other movies that are like Mulholland Drive is near impossible. David Lynch is no stranger to creating wild and surreal filmic experiences, such as Blue Velvet, Lost Highway, Inland Empire, and don't forget about the otherworldly TV series Twin Peaks. Yes, Mulholland Drive has the same kind of wild drama and intriguing mystery that you can find in many other films. But what separates this 2001 masterpiece is Lynch's arsenal of trademark dreamlike elements that bring about all kinds of hallucinations and sexual fantasies and dark visions as characters deal with obsession and jealousy and loneliness. So, how do you compare other movies to Mulholland Drive? It's not easy, but I believe I've put together a great list of films that collectively contain the most defining aspects of Lynch's cautionary tale about Hollywood. Number 1, Perfect Blue. Perhaps the most obvious contender for this list is Satoshi Kon's classic Perfect Blue. Famously, it was the movie that Darren Aronofsky loved so much that he based his movie Black Swan upon it. But David Lynch could have also very well drawn inspiration from this beloved anime film, as Mima's rise as a teen girl pop star in Perfect Blue recalls Betty's desire to become a star actress in Mulholland Drive. Because of this approach, both Betty and Mima experience a classic Alice in Wonderland scenario. Through the use of memory loss, alter egos, and supernatural encounters, Perfect Blue constantly toes the line between fiction and reality in a way that feels very much like Mulholland Drive. Number 2, Persona. As much as Mulholland Drive is a discernible psychological thriller with classic twists and turns, it's also a bizarre, experimental movie that transcends what we typically expect from Hollywood. In this way, it has an art house European feel, which immediately makes me think of a movie like Persona. Considered by many to be Ingmar Bergman's greatest creation, Persona plays with the ideas of self-perception through a creative style that's undoubtedly spoken to David Lynch in the past. Number 3, Malignant. In my opinion, Malignant suffered from misleading advertising. While it very much is a fun, entertaining horror film, Malignant is also a deeply psychological experience about a young woman's desire to move past her dark side. Sound familiar? While director James Wan employs a much different style than Lynch does with Mulholland Drive, Malignant is nonetheless a stark, disturbing take about what can happen to somebody who doesn't overcome trauma and hardship. Number 4, Tropical Malady. I'll admit, this movie is a little tougher to find. In fact, you may have to buy it on DVD. But trust me, once you see it, you'll understand why this movie has such a cult following in the indie community. Tropical Malady comes from the mind of Apichatpong Weerasethakul, who is basically the David Lynch of Thailand. While his movies are much more lethargic and deliberate than Lynch's, a film like Tropical Malady does a wonderful job of tackling the human emotion beneath its fantastical elements. In particular, Tropical Malady has a love story that recalls the pains that Diane faces with Rita in Mulholland Drive. Also, let's just say that the final scene of Tropical Malady has some very strong Club Silencio vibes. Number 5, Laventura. It might seem a mistake to compare a romantic drama about a lost woman with a thriller like Mulholland Drive. But Michelangelo Antonioni's classic Italian mystery film has all of the core elements of identity and loss at its heart that are in Lynch's film as well. The young man in Laventura has Adam Kesher energy, while the Claudia character reminds me of Diane, and the lost woman, Anna, reminds me of Camilla. Each of these parties plays an important role in the existential crisis that permeates the film and drives each character to feel a profound sense of disorientation. Number 6, Sunset Boulevard. Honestly, a list like this would be incomplete without the inclusion of Sunset Boulevard, the ultimate movie about an actress's perception of herself. While a famous film, it has still gone unseen by many people, and that should change, especially if you're intrigued by Mulholland Drive's cynical take on Hollywood. Billy Wilder's 1960 film focuses on a washed-up actress who begins to have trouble differentiating reality from her life in the movies. Throw in some self-discovery and a destructive romance, and you've got a classic Hollywood story that can only end in tragedy. Number 7, Total Recall. The best part of Total Recall is, you never know what's real. From the very beginning, Douglas Quaid is implanted with a vivid memory that has a movie-like plot. From there, it's up to the viewer to determine what's fiction and what's reality. This approach recalls a film like Mulholland Drive, which is also exploring how self-perception can be warped and twisted to match the stories sold to us by Hollywood, and all of the life-threatening danger that comes with that. Number 8. Carrie. If there's any director we should include in the same conversation as David Lynch, it's Brian De Palma. While De Palma's films are often not surreal like Lynch's, they do own a number of fantastical and overtly dramatic elements that feel very similar. And with Carrie, De Palma created a female character worthy of comparison to Betty. Both Carrie and Betty from Mulholland Drive are driven to near insanity because of their oppressive situations, and ultimately become killers because of it. Both films are classic examples of what can happen to someone who doesn't get the love and support they deserve.